I'm talking here. I'm in Johnson Bay, just off Rivers Inlet, talking to Sarah Mukai. Sarah's a what do you call yourself? A
silviculture forester.
Right, with Interfor, and you've got a brushing crew out here working on some conifer release program. How did you get into this this business, Sarah? Because you told me you grew up in Vancouver. Your mom was a teacher. You went to Hornby for the summers. I imagine you hung out with all kinds of people who, you know, don't see the forest industry in a positive light. How did you end up on the dark side?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily call it the dark side, but I've always loved the outdoors and animals in particular. So when I was in high school and thinking about post-secondary education, I was thinking wildlife biology. Well, it was a toss-up between marine biology and wildlife biology, but I thought I'd stay on land. And applying to UBC, I could go through two streams, through the biology department and through the forestry department. I heard back from forestry first, and I said yes. And after my first few classes in dendrology, learning about trees, I realized that, wow, trees are cool, forests are amazing, and ecology, the whole picture that includes wildlife and animals, but includes so much more: fish and water, hydrology, and trees and plants, and the whole system I found so much more fascinating, really engaging, so I carried on through forestry.
Right, so and I talked about this before, like for me the fit between, you know, ecology and the forest industry seems like a funny one. I certainly wouldn't have put those in the same sentence unless I put them against each other. So, you know, straighten me out here, or try to.
Well, Interfor, we're a forest management company. We manage the forests for a variety of resources. Our goal is to harvest wood to use as timber, but that's not the only. It's not our only management task.
Right. Well, you've been tasked to do a bigger job than you used to, well, not you personally, but that your profession used to do. Right. Your profession used to be about getting the wood to the water, and then maybe, you know, making sure there was wood another 50 or 100 years. Mm-hmm. It's gotten a lot more complicated. Is that what?
Indeed. You know, the history of forestry in BC is long and has evolved numerous times. From, you know, straight up, we just want the trees to build ships and masts, to thinking about sustained yield and how can we have trees come out of the forest forever, but strictly focused on trees. And now we're in this new age. We've got ecosystem-based management. So what
does that mean?
It means we're managing more holistically on the coast. We want to be able to harvest timber in such a way that there will always be timber, but there will always be the whole range of resources that we enjoy now from the forest.
Okay, and again, you're not doing this because it makes market sense. You're doing this because, or the other values, but because of legislation and public activism and stuff like that.
Yep.
You're a young person. I'm not going to ask you, you know, to contradict your employer here, but I'm assuming you're doing what you're doing because it feels good.
That's right. I believe I love wood. I've just put some new cedar siding on my house because I think it is beautiful. It's the right resource to do that job, not vinyl siding, things like that. I think it's an environmentally sound choice, the way that we manage the forests these days. The trees grow back, we plant tons of trees, we have small harvest openings, and we plan. We know what's going on, we know what's out there, we consider a whole range of values. We consult the local First Nations and other, you know, the public and other stakeholders, and consider, you know, fish and wildlife, visual aesthetics, a whole range of things. We've got archaeologists and geoengineers in here right now making sure that we're doing the right thing. So I believe that's the right choice of resource to use, and so I'm very comfortable with what I do out here.
Well, so I'm going to ask you earlier, but like, how do you talk to your friends who you know, would want to save the forest? And you made a comment. What was it? The biggest threat to the forest isn't you know, contemporary logging practice, but suburban development or something like that. Tell me again.
Well, I think that one of the only ways you can stop the trees from growing on the coast is to log it and then pave it. So suburban development and city expansion is definitely one way where you cut down the trees and they're not coming back. Out here you cut down the trees and there's already little trees growing underneath ready to be released. We plant tons of trees out here every year, and I'm also out here doing surveys, monitoring their progress and their growth, and man, they grow like stink out here. So I'm very comfortable that the forests will be here for longer than I will be.
So this all sounds like a good news story. You know, I'll be having a look myself and talking to a lot of people, and you know, from what I've seen, it certainly is different than when I was out here as a young man logging. That was 30 years ago. It's a huge change. But I'm still a bit of a skeptic. Although when I fly over and I just see like endless forest, I have to wonder.
Well, I certainly agree that there are areas that are different and are special for different reasons, and so it's important that we ensure that we keep that as well. You know, large valley bottom spruce forests, for example, those were the first targets in the early days of logging, and so are now comparatively rare. So I think it is important that we maintain representation of the different types of forests we have here on the coast.
Okay, and I can hear the helicopter coming in from a crew, and it's time to stop talking again. Thanks a lot.